The sun had just begun to set when Ethan and Clara Amani returned home from the hospital, holding their tiny baby girl like the most precious gem in the world. Clara looked exhausted but happy, her face glowing with that new mother joy. Ethan had never driven so carefully in his life, not even on their wedding day. But just as they reached their gate and the security lights came on, they both froze. "What is that?" Clara muttered, her voice barely louder than a whisper. There, right in front of their gate, lay another baby, wrapped in a soft pink blanket, silent, still, just waiting. Ethan blinked. "Please tell me that's a doll." Clara stepped closer, heartbeat racing. "That's no doll, Ethan. That's a whole human being." They stared at the tiny bundle like it had grown legs and walked there by itself. For a second, neither of them moved. "Well," Ethan said slowly, trying to make sense of it. "What a welcome gift from the universe. We bring home one baby, and someone drops off a buy one, get one free special at our gate." Clara shot him a look, but her eyes were wide with fear and confusion. "This isn't funny, Ethan. Who would leave a newborn at someone's gate? In this cold?" Ethan sighed deeply, rubbing his forehead like the stress of fatherhood had just doubled in 30 seconds. "Maybe it's a prank. A really bad one. You know, like, surprise! You won the lottery of babies." But as they got closer, all sarcasm melted away. The baby was breathing, peaceful, sleeping as if she belonged there. Clara knelt beside the child, her heart heavy. "She's clean, healthy. Someone took care of her before leaving her." Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he bent to pick the baby up. "Well, guess we've been chosen," he said, voice softer now. "God wouldn't send her here by accident." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She looked at their first daughter, still sleeping in her arms, then at the new baby in Ethan's hands. "Maybe," Clara whispered. "Maybe God just gave us two at once." Ethan glanced at her, eyes wide. Twins, but one came with a receipt and no return address. They stood there for a long moment, surrounded by the silence of the night. A mix of shock, fear, and strange peace settled around them. Finally, Clara smiled faintly through her tears. "Let's take her inside. Whatever this is, we can't leave her out here." Ethan nodded. "Welcome to the family, little mystery girl. Hope you don't cry louder than your new sister." And with that, the Amani family stepped into their house, now with two babies instead of one. By the time the girls turned 7, the Amani household was filled with laughter, school books, and the sweet chaos of childhood. To the world, Chiara and Amara were twins, inseparable, born of the same womb, raised in the same love. But inside the house, a quiet divide had begun to grow. Amara, the baby they found wrapped in a pink blanket at their gate, was blossoming into something extraordinary. She was breathtakingly beautiful, with soft, glowing skin and bright, curious eyes. She didn't just learn, she absorbed. Teachers called her a genius. Visitors couldn't stop admiring her. "She's not just smart," one neighbor whispered once. "She's special." Clara smiled politely when people said those things, but deep inside, something stung. Amara was not her blood, not her child. And yet, she was outshining Chiara in everything. Chiara, her real daughter, was kind and sweet. She had her father's gentle heart and her mother's soft features. But compared to Amara, she faded into the background, and that began to bother Clara more than she could admit. One evening, while watching the girls play in the garden, Clara made a quiet decision. The next week, private tutors began arriving at the house, special teachers, handpicked by Clara herself. She said it was to give the girls an extra edge. But somehow, Amara was never around during the lessons. Clara made sure of that. Sometimes she'd send Amara to the store. Other times, she'd give her chores or tell her to rest. And when Amara asked shyly, "Mum, why can't I join the class too?" Clara would smile sweetly and reply, "Oh, darling, you're already too smart. Let Chiara catch up, okay?" Amara would nod and walk away, quietly, but her silence held more questions than her mouth could speak. Ethan noticed. He came home early one afternoon and found the tutor teaching Chiara in the living room. Amara was sitting alone on the steps, clutching an old book to her chest. "Why isn't Amara in class?" he asked. The tutor hesitated. "Madam said it's only for Chiara." That night, after the girls had gone to bed, Ethan sat across from Clara at the dining table. His voice was calm but firm. "We agreed to raise them equally. You're changing the rules." Clara didn't look up. "I'm only helping Chiara stand out. Amara already gets all the attention." "Clara," Ethan's voice grew colder. "She's our daughter too. No one's supposed to know she isn't, not even us." But Clara said nothing. She had already made up her mind, and her silence said more than words ever could. Despite everything Clara did to quietly push her aside, Amara continued to shine, like a candle no wind could put out. She was polite, humble, and respectful. Always the first to say good morning, always ready to help her teachers, always protecting Chiara like a true sister. She never complained, never asked why her books were older, why she never got new clothes first, or why Chiara's name came first on everything, even birthday cakes. Yet, everywhere she went, people noticed her. At school, she wasn't just liked, she was loved. The teachers called her the light of the class. Students followed her around like she was royalty. Posters for school events had Amara Amani smiling in the middle. She became the face of the school magazine and even led the school's quiz team to a national level. And just when Clara thought things couldn't get more irritating, the city announced a children's beauty contest for ages 9 to 12. It was just another event, just another Saturday until the results came in. Amara won. Not just a ribbon or a certificate. She was crowned Miss Blossom City, children's queen, right there on the city stage, in front of cameras, officials, and a cheering crowd. Clara sat in the audience, smiling like every other proud mother, but inside, she was trembling, burning. How, she thought, how is this possible? Her own daughter Chiara didn't even make it past the second round. That night, Clara didn't sleep. She lay on her side of the bed, eyes wide open, replaying the judge's words in her head. This girl is not just beautiful. She carries a rare grace, a queen in the making. Clara's jaw clenched. Her heart beat hard against her chest. If I don't do something now, this girl will steal the spotlight of my entire family. She will bury Chiara without lifting a finger, and the world will clap for her while my own child is left in the shadows. That night marked a quiet turning point in Clara's heart. No one saw it, not even Ethan. But for Amara, that was the beginning of a different chapter in her life. A phase she didn't ask for. A battle she didn't start. A slow war of silent rejection inside the very house she called home. Weeks later, the airport was full of tight hugs and teary smiles that day. Ethan was traveling abroad for a business deal that would keep him away for a whole year. It wasn't easy for him to leave, but he trusted his wife Clara and believed the girls would be safe in her hands. "Take care of my queens," he said, ruffling Chiara's hair and kissing Amara's forehead gently. Clara smiled, holding onto his hand a little too long. "Don't worry, everything will be just fine." That night, after dropping Ethan off, the house felt quieter. Chiara and Amara had their dinner, said their goodnights, and disappeared into their room. Clara locked the doors, double-checked the windows, and went to bed with a sigh of relief. But what Clara didn't know was that peace would not last till morning. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the nightmare began. Armed men, masked and swift, broke into the compound like shadows. The gatekeeper and the 2 guards were tied up like animals and dumped at the gate. The front door opened with no resistance, like the house had been expecting them. They didn't come for money. They didn't touch the electronics. They didn't even check the master bedroom. They went straight for one room and one girl. By the time the sun rose, the house was in chaos. It was Chiara who first screamed, "Mummy, Amara is not in her bed." Clara rushed in, confused, still tying her wrapper. At first, she thought maybe Amara had gone to the bathroom. But the bathroom door was wide open. No sign of her. The window in their room was cracked open slightly, just enough for a hand to slip through. Then came the bang on the gate. Neighbors had gathered, dozens of them, after finding the guards tied and unconscious. Police were called. Cameras were checked. But somehow there was no clear footage, no number plate, no trace. It was like the night had swallowed Amara whole. Clara stood in the middle of the living room, frozen, her eyes wide, her breath shallow. Robbers broke in, the head officer said grimly, but only one thing was taken. Not money, not gold, not even the car. Amara. She had been stolen, gone, without a trace. Amara's eyes fluttered open slowly. The ceiling above her wasn't familiar. She blinked again. Where am I? She sat up fast, her small heart pounding in her chest. The bed was tiny, the room even smaller. Just a rusted fan on the wall, a wooden chair, and a broken window sealed with tape. Panic started to rise. She threw the blanket aside and jumped out of bed. Her bare feet touched the cold floor. She reached for the door, twisted the knob, and stepped into a narrow hallway. It smelled strange, like dust and old clothes. She ran, her small legs racing down the hallway, and burst into a dimly lit living room. It was quiet, too quiet. "Chiara!" she called out. Silence. "Mummy?" Her voice cracked. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Not even a whisper. Her hands began to shake. She looked around. There were old plastic chairs, a TV that hadn't worked in years, and a dusty curtain blocking the only window. She turned back toward the hallway. "Please, where is everyone?" she shouted again, her voice echoing back like a ghost was mocking her. Tears filled her eyes. Am I dreaming? Am I still asleep? Am I going mad? She ran to the door that looked like an exit, flung it open, and found herself in a dirty compound with one tall, rusty gate. She ran to it, tried to open it, pulled it, pushed it, locked. She looked up at the high metal bars. No way to climb, no way to jump. She banged on it with her tiny fists. "Help! Help me! Please, I want to go home!" But no one came. Just the wind. Just the silence. Just the sound of her own breathing and a heart that beat like a drum in a dark forest. Amara was alone, trapped, taken, and the world didn't even know where to find her. Meanwhile, back at home, the house that was once filled with laughter and soft giggles now echoed with silence. A silence so loud it pressed on everyone's chest like a heavy rock. Chiara sat at the foot of the staircase, still wearing her pink pajamas. Her eyes were swollen, her voice hoarse. She hadn't eaten, not even a drop of water. She kept staring at the front door, as if expecting Amara to walk in and shout, "Got you! It was just a game!" But Amara never came. "Mummy, are you sure she's not hiding somewhere?" Chiara whispered for the 10th time that morning. Clara didn't answer. She stood by the window, arms crossed tightly, staring into nothing, her face pale, lips dry. She hadn't slept a wink since that dreadful night. Not because she didn't want to. Her conscience simply wouldn't let her. She kept seeing Amara's face, how the girl would always say goodnight, Mum, even when Clara acted cold. How she would hug Chiara tightly and share everything, even when she was pushed aside. How she smiled through everything, like she was trying to earn love that wasn't freely given. Now she was gone, stolen, and Clara couldn't breathe. The police had come and gone, dropping files and promises, but no news, no leads, no hope. Neighbors came, offered their sympathy, and left. The house remained hollow. Chiara walked to her mother, tugged her wrapper gently. "Mummy, is Amara coming back?" Clara turned slowly. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time since it all happened, she knelt and held Chiara tightly. "I don't know, baby. I don't know," she whispered, her voice trembling. Chiara sobbed into her mother's chest. "I miss her. I didn't even get to say sorry for eating her candy last week." Clara froze. That little sentence stabbed her heart in places she didn't know existed. She had treated Amara like an outsider, and now the child was gone. She stood up shakily and picked up the framed photo on the table, one of the few they had taken as a family of 4. Chiara and Amara smiling with their matching dresses, Ethan standing tall behind them. Clara pretending to smile. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Where are you, Amara?" Chiara whispered to the air. "Please, come back home." For 2 days, Amara remained locked inside the strange house. No one came to her. No food, no water. Just the sound of time crawling and fear whispering in her ears. She cried until her throat was dry. She screamed until her voice disappeared. But no one answered. Only sometimes, just sometimes, she heard footsteps, not loud ones, soft, sneaky, like someone walking on purpose not to be heard. Rushed toward the sound. Hello, is someone there? But by the time she reached the spot, there would be nothing. No one. Just empty air and the scent of damp wood. Once, she thought she heard laughter. A giggle. Feminine, cold. But still, no face. Her fear grew deeper, heavier, like a weight tied around her chest. By the second night, she was curled in the corner of the room, arms wrapped around her knees, sobbing quietly. Her small body trembled, not just from the cold, but from the haunting feeling that she was being watched. Then, suddenly, the door creaked. She jerked up. A woman stood there, smiling, calmly, elegantly. She had red lipstick, long braids, and eyes that sparkled, but not with kindness. It was a different kind of sparkle, like a snake before it strikes. The woman stepped in, clapped her hands slowly. "Beautiful girl," she said, her voice smooth like honey but sharp underneath. "You just passed the first test." Amara looked up, confused and frightened. "What?" The woman bent slightly, looking into Amara's eyes. Most girls would have lost their minds by now, screaming, fighting, banging their heads. But you stayed calm, you survived. Amara's lips trembled. "Please, where am I? I want to go home. I miss my sister. I miss..." But the woman raised a finger to her lips and smiled wider. "Shh, home?" She chuckled sarcastically. "You still think you have a home?" She walked around Amara slowly, like inspecting a prize. "From today, forget the name Chiara. Forget Clara. Forget Ethan. They are no longer your people." Tears poured down Amara's face. "Please, please don't hurt me." "Hurt you?" The woman stopped and turned. No, darling. We don't hurt diamonds. We shape them." She knelt down and placed her cold hand on Amara's cheek. "Welcome, Amara, to my world." And just like that, everything Amara thought she knew began to fall apart. Madame didn't waste time. 2 weeks after locking Amara in that tiny, silent house, she walked in with a plastic smile and a bag of cheap clothes. "It's time," she said sharply. "Time for what?" Amara asked nervously. "To move you to your new home," Madame replied, her tone like a ticking bomb. "I'm not running a charity house. I'm a businesswoman, and I paid $6 million to get you here. So now I plan to make at least double that back through you." Amara's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to ask more questions, but something about Madame's tone told her not to. Later that night, they arrived at a dark, hidden compound with high gates and barbed wires. The moment they stepped in, Amara froze. Children. At least 10 of them. Some as young as 5, others around her age. No one looked happy. A boy coughed weakly in a corner while 2 girls fought over a torn bedsheet. Another child sat on the floor washing clothes, eyes swollen like he hadn't slept in days. Madame pushed Amara forward. "Welcome to your new reality," she said. "These are your new brothers and sisters. Each of them is waiting for their buyer. You'll stay here until it's your turn." Amara's mouth opened slightly in shock. Buyers? That's when it hit her. This wasn't a house. It was a market, and she was now one of the products. "Start working," said a woman with a deep scar across her cheek. She handed Amara a brush and a bucket of dirty water. "Scrub the toilets. After that, clean the floors and wash those clothes." Amara stood there, shaking. I don't know how to do all this," she stuttered. The woman hissed. "Then learn fast. If you delay, you'll sleep outside. If you cry too much, we'll flog you. That's how we do it here." As Amara bent to scrub, her eyes burned with tears. One older girl laughed. "Still crying?" she said. "We all did. You'll get used to it. Crying doesn't help here. It only brings more punishment." That night, Amara barely finished her chores. She slept on the floor, body aching, her tiny arms sore from scrubbing and carrying buckets of water. But as she stared at the cracked ceiling above her, one thought kept her awake. "I will not end here. This won't be my end. Back at home, everything seemed calm, too calm. The house looked peaceful, like nothing had ever gone wrong. Laughter returned to the living room. Clara had resumed her outings, and the maids went about their chores as if Amara never existed. Even the guards stood firm at the gate, heads high, chests out, like they didn't fail to protect a child. But not everyone moved on. Chiara hadn't. 2 full weeks had passed since Amara vanished. 2 full weeks of silence, of excuses, of "we'll keep praying" and "the police are trying their best." But Chiara wasn't buying it. Every night, when the house went quiet and everyone was asleep, Chiara would quietly tiptoe out of her room, barefoot on the cold tiles, moving like a shadow through the hallway. She listened to the whispers between the guards outside, to the late-night phone calls her mother thought no one noticed, to the hushed arguments between the two maids in the kitchen when they thought no one was around. Chiara wasn't sure what she was looking for, but something inside her refused to let go. She remembered an old saying her grandmother once told her: "If the trouble at home doesn't destroy you, the one outside won't dare." It echoed in her head again and again. So Chiara did something no one expected from a child her age. She re-accessed the CCTV footage the security had claimed to check. She flipped through old diaries where Amara had written silly thoughts, random drawings, and even notes about people who came to the house. She sat on the floor one evening, whispering to herself, "If Amara is still alive, I won't grow up alone. I'll find her. I promise." Clara noticed her daughter's quietness, the way she barely smiled anymore, the way her eyes wandered like she was always lost in thought. But she brushed it off. "She's just missing Amara," Clara told herself. "She'll get over it soon." But Chiara wasn't planning to, because somewhere deep inside, Chiara believed that Amara didn't just disappear. She was taken. Saturday morning came quietly, the sun barely rising, painting the sky in soft gold. Chiara stood in front of the mirror wearing her sport kit, a small cross bag hanging by her side. She didn't look like a child anymore. There was a fire in her eyes, one that no one noticed, not even her mother. She walked into the living room where Clara sat, sipping tea absent-mindedly. "Mom? See you later?" Chiara said, forcing a small smile. Clara barely looked up. "All right, dear. Don't be long." But Chiara had no plans of coming back soon. As she stepped outside the compound, she whispered to herself, "It's either I come back with my sister, or I keep walking forever." The gate closed behind her, and with it, she closed every door of comfort. She walked and walked under the morning sun, through busy streets and quiet corners. She pulled out her diary from her bag and flipped through the pages. She clutched it tightly and kept moving. As evening fell and the sky turned gray, hunger gnawed at her stomach and her legs ached, but Chiara refused to stop. She entered the first hotel she saw. The gateman looked confused. "Little girl, where are your parents?" "I just need a place to stay for the night." He shook his head. "Sorry, we don't lodge children alone. It's against policy." Chiara moved to another hotel. And another. Same story. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She sat on a pavement, wiped her face, then looked up and saw a church nearby. The large banner read, "Power Night Vigil. God Still Answers Prayers." Chiara stood up slowly and walked in. Inside, the church was full. People were praying, singing, clapping, crying. No one even noticed her small body as she quietly took a seat at the back. She folded her arms across her chest, rested her head, and whispered, "God, I'm doing my best. Please don't leave me alone." That was how Chiara passed the night. Back at home, Clara had turned into a shadow of the woman she once was. Her daughter, her only child, was missing. The police were alerted, pictures printed and posted online, sent to WhatsApp groups, Facebook pages, and even local radio stations. Her phone kept ringing with numbers she didn't recognize, all asking the same thing. "Have you found her yet?" But none of the calls were from Chiara. Her phone switched off. Clara couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, could barely speak. Her eyes were sunken, and her lips trembled with fear. Her child was gone. On the second day, Chiara woke up in the church, stretched her tired body, pulled out her diary again, and checked the notes. She turned on her phone for a while, quickly reviewed something she'd saved, then turned it back off and continued walking. One mission in her heart: find Amara. No matter how far, no matter how long. Chiara kept walking. Her steps were slower now, her legs heavy, and the street ahead was quiet, lowly, dusty, almost forgotten. A few old houses stood at both sides, their paint faded, their fences weak. Then a black car drove past her slowly. Her eyes widened, her heart skipped, her breath caught in her throat. "That's it! That's the car," she whispered. Chiara froze for a moment. Her hands began to shake. She clutched her diary tightly. "That's the same car I saw in the footage. Yes, this is it, my sister. My twin was taken by them." Without thinking, Chiara began to follow. The car turned into a narrow street and parked in front of a gate. Two strange men came out. One looked around suspiciously before unlocking the gate. The other tapped on the window of the car. Chiara ducked behind a tree. They opened the gate and drove in. The gate shut again with a loud bang. Chiara stood still. She looked around and noticed a bushy area beside the fence. Quietly, she tiptoed toward it, crawled behind the tall grasses, and found a spot where she could peep through a small opening in the fence. Inside was a large compound with two buildings. She saw kids, young children, washing, cleaning, sweeping, but she didn't see Amara. Still, her heart knew. She's in there. I can feel it. I just know it. Chiara sat low in the bush, covered in dry leaves and silence. Thoughts ran through her head like a storm. What should I do? Should I shout? Should I scream and call her name? What if I'm wrong? What if they catch me too? Tears welled up in her eyes as she hugged her diary tightly. But one thing was clear. She wasn't going anywhere without Amara. And so Chiara stayed in that bush, watching, waiting, praying, hoping. Her little heart, filled with courage bigger than her age, prepared for what would come next. The next morning, the sun rose gently over the quiet street, but in Chiara's little hidden corner behind the bush, the night had been long and cold. Her eyes were tired, but her spirit stayed awake. She hadn't moved, not even once. Then, it happened. The gate creaked open. Chiara held her breath. Her fingers tightened around the diary. Out came Amara. Her hair was rough. Her eyes looked tired. She walked slowly, carrying a heavy black bag, dragging it behind her. 3 other children followed, also holding bags filled with what looked like dirt, trash, or worse. Behind them, 2 hefty men walked out with canes in their hands. Chiara's heart jumped as she leaned forward through the bush, squinting. Then one of the men shouted, "Faster, you lazy goat!" Amara tried to walk faster, but she tripped slightly, and right there, one of the men gave her a hard slap across the face. Chiara gasped silently. She covered her mouth with both hands. Tears rushed to her eyes, but she didn't move. She couldn't. The children were taken to a corner where a big barrel stood. One of the men poured fuel over the dirt. Then fire blazed up, eating through the rubbish. Chiara watched them stand there, covering their noses, coughing, flinching from the heat, but no one dared to step back, not even Amara. The man raised the cane once and hissed, "Anyone that moves gets 2 extra strokes tonight." Chiara's hands were shaking as she pulled out her small phone from her cross bag. She snapped a photo, then another, and another. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't make a sound. She couldn't save Amara now, but she could gather proof. She could build a way. From her hiding place, she watched Amara wipe sweat from her brow with the back of her hand, then glance around as if she could feel someone watching. Chiara whispered under her breath, "Just hold on, Amara. Just hold on for me." Chiara's fingers trembled as she inserted her dad's second SIM into the phone she had hidden in her bag. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest. She scrolled through the contact list on the SIM and found the number labeled Uncle Dan, DSS. She dialed. It rang once, twice. A voice answered. Hello? Chiara's voice was low, urgent. Sir, please check your WhatsApp. I've sent you a message. My name is Chiara Amani, and I really need your help. It's very urgent. If you're willing to help, reply and ask me to share my location. She hung up quickly, then sent the photos, the address, and a voice note, barely holding back tears. 2 hours passed. Silence. Then a single blue tick. Then a response. Stay hidden. Team approaching. The building was quietly surrounded. No sirens, just black-clothed agents securing every exit, hidden in shadows. They waited for the final signal. And Chiara gave it. She wiped her tears, adjusted her shirt, and slowly knocked on the gate. A tired, gruff security man peeked out. He frowned. Wettin' you want? Why you day here? Chiara suddenly burst into tears. Please, sir, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten. Please give me anything. Just something. He eyed her suspiciously, then smirked. You go wait. Make I call madam. E be like say golden fish don swim come again today. The madam walked out, poised, dressed in her usual flowing gown, her nails long and painted blood red. She sipped from a golden cup as she scanned Chiara from head to toe. She chuckled. Where's the fresh golden fish that walked in without a tag? Chiara shivered, fighting back her fear. Ma, I'm the one. I'm just hungry, please. The woman took a step closer, circling her like a predator. You want food? She smirked, sipping her drink. I'll give you food. I'll give you plenty of it. But tell me, where are your parents? Chiara sniffed. They're not around. Please, just give me food. Madam's eyes gleamed. Then welcome to your new family. She waved toward the compound. Because this is your new home, until it's your turn. She laughed wickedly. This is what I call a golden fish that knocked on my own door. Chiara fell to her knees. No, ma, just food, and I'll go back to my mommy. The madam turned away, satisfied. Just then, Amara walked in, holding a tray of food. She stopped dead in her tracks. The tray fell. Plates shattered. Food spilled. The madam spun back, eyes blazing. Slap! Amara's face twisted in pain as she stumbled back. How dare you waste my food? The woman screamed. The other children gasped in horror, but Chiara, already on her knees, rushed forward and held the woman's leg. Please, ma, punish me instead. Forgive her. She didn't mean it. I'll take the punishment. Just forgive her. Everyone froze. The madam raised a brow. She turned slowly, then laughed, a cruel, sharp sound. Did I hear you well? You, my new golden fish, wants to suffer for another? She clapped once. How much did I even buy her, that she's now trying to ruin me? Then she walked away in anger. Amara stood still, her eyes wide with disbelief. Her lips trembled. She looked at Chiara, kneeling, weeping, her brave heart exposed. Their eyes met. And in that silent moment, they remembered everything. The shared birthdays, the sister whispers in the dark, the games, the pact never to abandon each other. Amara blinked back tears. She clenched her fists, and for the first time in days, she felt alive. Because Chiara came. She came for her. Amara knelt beside Chiara, both trembling and crying softly. For a moment, they just held each other's hands, fingers laced, hearts beating as one. Chiara whispered, her lips barely moving. Get ready. They're here to rescue us. Amara's eyes widened slightly. But the gate's locked, and if we're all inside, they might harm someone before the team can act. They both stared at the two large water drums near the back fence. Amara's eyes lit up. Wait, if we spoil the water, the only water we use for drinking and cooking, they'll send us out to fetch. Chiara nodded eagerly. Let's do it, quickly. Amara glanced around, then shoved the dirty heap of stained clothes near the drum, making it look accidental. Then she screamed. Oh God, not again! The other children ran over. What's happening? One asked. Amara gasped dramatically. I mistakenly poured bleach inside the water drum. The one for cooking. Everyone froze. Then instinct kicked in. Without even reporting to the madam, the children began pouring the water into the gutter, shouting and rushing. We'll be in trouble. Let's go and fetch new water fast. Buckets clanged together. Footsteps thudded. The gateman, caught off guard, blinked at the sight of 11 children charging toward the gate with empty buckets. "Wet and happen? Please, sir, don't tell madam," one of the girls begged. Amara mistakenly poured bleach into the drum. "We want to fetch water fast." The man frowned, chewing on a toothpick. "You children, Seth? Be careful. I know they follow Una. I dey chop." The other guard muttered from behind, his mouth full of food. "No wahala. No mess up again, all else madam go finish Una." Gate unlocked. The children rushed out. Amara and Chiara followed at the end, holding hands. The moment their feet touched the street, vans rolled forward. Men in black with communication earpieces flooded in like a wave. "Secure the perimeter. Move in. Non-lethal. Protect the children at all costs." The gates burst open fully, guards subdued before they could raise alarm. Inside, the madam's drink dropped to the floor as voices thundered through the compound. "Hands where we can see them." "Nobody moves." One of the agents lifted Chiara in a warm embrace. "You did good, brave girl. We heard everything. You're safe now." Amara clung to Chiara, tears flowing freely. The other children stood in shock, free, but not yet believing it. Then sirens, more cars, ambulance, social workers. One of the girls whispered, stunned, "We're really going home?" Chiara looked at her and smiled through her tears. "Yes, we all are." At DSS interrogation room, the room was heavy with silence. Everyone sat still. Clara sat pale and cold, avoiding eye contact. The gateman, the two guards, the maid, and the rescued girls sat across the room, stiff and uneasy. Mr. Dan, a tall man in a dark suit, adjusted his glasses and looked at Chiara. "Chiara Amani, tell us how you discovered all of this," he said, his voice calm but sharp. Chiara stood slowly. Her voice trembled at first, but with every word it grew stronger. "It started when Amara disappeared," she said. All eyes turned to her. "Mom didn't act like someone who just lost a daughter. She didn't even call Dad. She kept acting like everything was fine. I became restless. I couldn't sleep. Something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. Until the next day, I found our diary." Amara gasped slightly, remembering the diary they used to keep together, writing poems, jokes, and Grandma's sayings. Chiara took a deep breath. "That was when I saw something Grandma once told us. If death at home doesn't kill you, the one outside can't." A wave of silence filled the room. "So I decided to start watching everyone." She glanced briefly at Clara, whose face twitched nervously. "I went through the CCTV footage. I saw the car, the three hefty men. I saw when they took my sister away. But that wasn't all. I saw the gatemen and the guards open the gate and our entrance door after Mom had locked it." Gasps. Even the maid covered her mouth in shock. "I saw the gatemen smiling as they tied him to the gate like it was a joke." Amara clutched her chest, heart racing. "That night, I knew something wasn't right. So every night after that, when everyone slept, I tiptoed around the house, following any sound. And one night, I heard it." She pointed at Clara, her voice quivering with emotion. "I heard my mom, no, Clara, talking to someone on the phone. She said she was happy Amara disappeared, that it meant her real child, which is me, would now have her full attention." Amara's lips parted, stunned. "Wait, real child?" she whispered. Chiara nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. She said it, clearly, that Amara was never hers. The room broke into low murmurs. I kept listening, and another night, I heard the gateman talking on the phone. He said, "The Pekin I sold was my madam's headache." So I knew she won't bother looking for her. I overheard her many times complaining about Amara, asking around, wondering what to do with a child that wasn't hers. Amara was crying silently now. Her hands trembled in her lap. Mr. Dan turned sharply to Clara. "Is this true, Madam Clara?" Clara shook her head, her lips quivering. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Chiara cut in, her voice louder. "You were the one who betrayed your own home. You have been looking for how to discard her, and the gateman took advantage of it. And I saw when you smiled the next morning while Amara was gone. Amara finally stood, wiping her face. So, all this while, I've been a stranger in that house? Chiara took a deep breath and continued. Her voice was now steadier, filled with a mix of pain and quiet strength. For me to be sure of what I heard those nights, I went deeper. I needed proof. So I searched for our birth certificates. Everyone leaned forward, Amara most especially. That was when I discovered something. I had a proper birth certificate. Everything. My name, hospital, parents, it was all there. She turned to look at Amara with teary eyes. But Amara, all she had was a police report, not a certificate, just a report saying a child was found and raised. Amara's hand flew to her mouth. She gasped. So I wasn't a member of this family? Chiara nodded, her eyes welled with tears. They hid it from us all these years. The officers scribbled faster in their notepads. Mr. Dan leaned back, stunned at the whole drama. But that's not all, Chiara said, now burning with fire in her voice. Do you know that the first time we reported Amara missing, the people who came disguised as authorities were part of the trafficking ring? Gasps and murmurs. Chiara pointed to the guards and the trembling gatemen. They had all planned. The fake officials told us the CCTV had nothing, that no trace was found. But it was all lies. I saw the footage myself. They lied to destroy evidence. Mr. Dan looked enraged. Chiara turned slowly to Clara, her voice shaking. Mom, your carelessness caused all this. You didn't verify. You didn't check. You left everything in the hands of wolves. Clara looked down, unable to speak. No, Mom didn't sell Amara, Chiara clarified to the room. But her negligence, her hatred, and carelessness was the open door that let it all happen. She pointed to the gateman, whose face was now dripping with sweat. It was them. The gatemen, the guards. They sold my sister for 6 million naira. Everyone turned to them in horror. Amara was frozen in place, her lips quivering, her eyes locked on the ground. One of the female officers clenched her fists. You sold a child for money? The gateman stammered. Nah mistake. Not temptation. I no say go reach this kind thing. Mr. Dan slammed his file shut. Enough, he barked. He turned to the officers at the back. Take them away. They're going straight to the anti-human trafficking unit. Let them tell their stories in front of a judge. The guards were handcuffed. Clara tried to beg, but her voice was drowned in shouts. Amara finally spoke, voice low and shaky. I thought I was loved. I thought I belonged. Chiara quickly held her hand. You do. You belonged in my heart, Amara, and we forever belong together. Mr. Dan nodded. As they were escorted out, Amara and Chiara held each other close. Two sisters, not by blood, but by heart. 2 weeks later, the courtroom was packed. Journalists, social workers, and members of the public filled every seat. All eyes were on the defendants seated in the dock, Madam, her staff, the two guards, and the trembling gateman. Chiara and Amara sat in the witness box beside Mr. Dan and a representative from Child Protection Services. Clara sat on the other side, her face pale, eyes downcast. The judge, stern and composed, looked over his glasses as he addressed the court. After reviewing the overwhelming evidence, including CCTV footage, recorded conversations, and eyewitness accounts, this court finds the defendants guilty. The structure and meaning remain intact, but the wording is refreshed. He fixed his gaze firmly on Madam. You and your household staff ran a child trafficking operation. For that, this court sentences you to 20 years in prison with hard labor. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The woman crumbled into uncontrollable sobs, collapsing as marshals lifted her off the floor. The judge then addressed the guards and the gatemen. You violated a family's trust. You sold a child for monetary gain. As a result, each of you is hereby sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. The gateman broke down, sinking to his knees in tears. Then came the court's final decision. The judge turned to Clara. Mrs. Clara Amani, while this court does not find you guilty of trafficking, your severe negligence cannot be overlooked. Consequently, you are stripped of all parental rights to Chiara and Amara, pending further legal action by family court and child welfare authorities. Clara struggled to rise. But they're my daughters. One of them isn't even your biological child, the judge retorted. And the one who is, you utterly failed to protect. Chiara's tears streamed freely. Amara sat motionless, her gaze hollow, emotionally spent. The judge raised the gavel. Court is adjourned. 1 week later, Canada. Toronto's snowy air greeted them with a crisp freshness, like the start of something new. Chiara and Amara stepped off the plane, small bags clutched in their hands. Waiting near the terminal, bundled in a thick coat and holding a bouquet of flowers, stood a tall man with gentle eyes, Ethan. He stood frozen for a moment, unable to believe it. Then Amara whispered, "Chiara, that's him." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He took slow steps forward, dropping the bouquet as he reached them. "My girls," he said, his voice cracking. "I prayed every day to see you again." Chiara fell into his arms. Amara followed. The three of them held each other for a long time, grieving, healing, and beginning again. This time, they were home. Hello, my besties. Chai! This story no wahala full, beiji everywhere. From person we dem carry like pure water, to madam we they sell pekin like crayfish. God I beg. But thank God say Chiara gets sense like FBI agent. She use brain, enter bush, snap evidence, call DSS, finish work. Now dem don jam am for court. 20 years for madam, 10 years for guards. Clara Sef lose custody. Noetin she find she see. Amara and Chiara don go meet their real papa for Canada. From suffer to soft life. Abeg, if this story touch your heart or make you laugh, no dull. Like, share, and subscribe. Make I no vex. Tell me for comment. Now, which part burst your brain pass? When Chiara enter bush? Or when Amara pour bleach? Or when madam call her golden fish? Drop love emoji or I stand Chiara for your language. Make I no say you reach here. I day hail Unna. Until next story, no forget say, Wahala no day finish, but sense go always win.